Write something on the board. Let's spell it. First letter.
L O G.
What's that? What?
It's time. It's time to have real, honest, open, difficult, and inspiring conversations. It's time for Love and Life on WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media.
Well, hey there, family. Hello, and welcome. Welcome to Love and Life with Carol Riddick right here on WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media, on air and online at wordradio.com. Welcome to Monday, May 13th. Ooh, the middle of May already. Wow. I hope all is well with you and yours. I truly do. I pray that you all enjoyed your Mother's Day weekend. And I just want to thank Gerald and Roxanne Beasley, Tim Hudson, Donald Robinson, Alex Bugnon, all of Connecticut and God, quite honestly, for an exceptional time this past weekend. The Lyman Center, it is a beautiful venue, and the staff was amazing. It was just everything I needed to get me through this weekend. It really was. It really was. Family, feel free to let us know that you are good as well and that you're joining us. You know, I like to know. You can do so by sharing a comment on our socials, or you can even call us. Yes, you can. You can do that by dialing 215-634 8065. You can even call us toll free at 1-866 361-0900. So while you check in and let us know that you are joining us, I'm going to share our Black History 365 moment. It is time. How about that? During slavery in America, even though some slaves escaped to the North, a good portion of them also escaped to the South. Until recently, the southbound Underground Railroad, as some scholars call it, has been largely overlooked, mainly because it left so few traces in surviving records. No one who escaped slavery by going to Mexico wrote a firsthand account of the experience, as Frederick Douglass and others did about escaping north, nor were they interviewed by researchers or recruited by anti-slavery organizations. As a matter of fact, the scale of the Southern migration was more modest, numbering between 3,000 and 10,000 people, compared with an estimated 30,000 to 100,000 who fled north of the Mason-Dixon line. Family, that is today's Black History 365 moment. I want to wish a happy birthday to everyone who is celebrating. Happy birthday to you. Yes, indeed. And I am sending extra love and hugs to everyone whose light is shining dimly today. Absolutely. Your tribe and your village here are here for you. And we want you to know that you are not alone and that you do have support. We are here, okay? I also want to extend condolences to the family and loved ones of beloved Grammy Award-winning saxophonist David Sanborn, who succumbed to an extended battle with prostate cancer with complications. And while I'm expressing condolences, family, just paying attention to everything going on in the world with these natural disasters and everything else, I want to extend our love to all of those affected and suffering loss from circumstances beyond our control. I do see that some of you are checking in. Hey there, family. Nasir is checking in and he's sending a good evening to everybody. I see that picture changed. Hey there. He shares peace and blessings with everybody. And we send them to you as well. He's asking how the show was this weekend. It was amazing. I had so much. Oh my gosh, I had so much fun. There was so much love in that room. It truly was amazing. We had a great time. A great time. And thank you for asking. Malcolm is checking in as well. He shares that he is watching and listening from West Mount Airy. Well, thank you for joining us, Malcolm. I love Light. Miss Lily is joining us, and she's sending love to the entire family as well. All right, family, let's get started. This is a conversation that I want to have. I know absolutely nothing about this topic. And our guest in this hour, well, she's going to educate. She is. Her name is Janet Bennion. She is a professor of anthropology with an MA in social anthropology from Portland State University and a PhD from the University of Utah. She is the preeminent world scholar on polygyny. I have to ask what that is. I looked it up, but I said, we got to talk about this. Polygyny among Mormon fundamentalist groups, having published extensively on female networking and the variability of poly lifestyles. Her most recent research explores polyamory networks in Paris, where she is testing the efficacy of network theory. I cannot wait. Family, I invite you to the conversation with none other than the one and only Janet Bennion. Hi there. Hi there.
Hello there. Thank you for inviting me to the show.
It's a pleasure to have you here. You already see. I'm on 10. I was sharing before we went live. Janet and I had a brief conversation, and I said, I cannot wait to have this conversation because I know so little. So I am ready for this education. So where do we begin? How about, Janet, if you wouldn't mind, would you share with our family members a little about you, from where you come and all of that good stuff before we jump right on in?
Sure. I am an anthropologist, and I live in Vermont. You can see some of the forest behind me in the Green Mountains here. And I love it here, but I started out in Utah. I grew up Mormon. I grew up in a ranch family, a big family of eight people, including mom and dad. And I decided to go into journalism, and then I was going to be a rancher, and then I finally landed in anthropology, which I love. It's fabulous, the study of human behavior. And I decided to do my first work among a group of polygamists. Why not? Something a little bit different. So I was married at the time, and I was pregnant. So I went up to the group with long hair, pregnant, and lived in Montana for a couple of years and had a few children, went back and forth from my home to the community. But this group that I lived with is a fundamentalist group, and they practice polygamy still today. So it's an underground, unorthodox offshoot of the Mormon Church. It's not the Orthodox Mormon Church. And through that, I became fascinated about the question of why somebody would want to belong to a patriarchal group that practices polygyny, which is where one man has several wives, but not the other way around. And finally, I ended up, after 25, almost 30 years of studying polygyny, which is also called polygamy. It's
thank you for that. That was one of my questions. I was going to ask what the difference.
It's the same thing. I ended up being vastly interested in polyamory, having also practiced it myself. So I do what they call autoethnography, which is where we study people like us. And I went to Paris to do so. And I was paid a grant to talk to people in cafes while drinking wine and talking about their sex lives. It was a great study in Paris.
I was about to say, I bet. I love Paris.
Those are the areas of study that I think are most interesting in my research. So,
well, why Paris though? Why Paris?
Well, originally it was so that I could visit with a friend of mine.
Okay.
And I thought, well, can't I have fun and do research too? And I thought, well, okay, I would like to figure out whether poly relationships or anything like polygamous relationships, polyamory, that is. And I also wanted to map out this really cool concept that's never been done before. No one has done it on an actual living people of polyamorous. So, with polyamory, you have many loves. Okay. And it's more freeing for women because they can also have multiple loves, not just the men, and it overlaps a lot with the queer community too. So, many loves is the best basic definition of polyamory. So
Okay.
while I was in Paris, I found this group that was very interested in promoting these concepts that went along with polyamory, which are really beautiful, really empathetic and honest and consensual. And I recognized, well, this is very different from what I was studying with the Mormon fundamentalists in their
Sure.
polygamous arrangements. And so I began to compare them. And
So, oh no,
so
please continue.
go ahead and tell me what you're interested in, because I could go on and on.
And I would love that because I'm so fascinated. So was there you were talking about you mentioned the fundamentalists and you mentioned, polyamory, the people with the polyamorous individuals with whom you communicated, I should say, or who you studied in Paris.
Mhm.
Would
Mhm.
you say that there was a specific demographic that catered more to
Mhm.
polygamy and
Yeah.
or polyamory or
Yeah, let's look at both of those. For the polygamy group, it's very WASP, it's very Mormon. And historically, individuals who are raised in fundamentalism and in plural marriage are going to go into it because it's part of their ideology that involves kingdom building and raising these big families that are very patriarchal. So you've
Mhm.
got the patriarch who's going to lead his family kingdom into the celestial kingdom in the next life. And the modus operandi for this patriarch is to get a quorum of 7 wives if possible, and they all have many children. And so he's going to have this enormous family kingdom, and he'll be the Lord and King over it. So it's very patriarchal, very tribal. And that form of polygamy is actually practiced in tribal sub-Saharan Africa, especially East Africa, because I've studied it there, where you have, the tribal patriarch, the head of the patrilineage, who
Mm.
has many wives, and then his sons stay put, and they also get wives from elsewhere and practice plural marriage. And so it wasn't anything new. It's been practiced in many patriarchal groups, all over the world. But in this particular sense, the demographic is clearly predominantly white, historically traditional Mormon
Mhm.
stock, as we call them. I'm of Mormon stock. I have polygamy on like 3 sides of my family tree.
Okay.
And those individuals pass on those characteristics and continue to practice it. But the official Mormon church banned it in 1890. And then again, it took a little bit of doing. So they had to ban it again in 1906 because people didn't want to stop practicing. And those that didn't want to stop practicing, who felt it was still a good idea, they went underground into these fundamentalist movements like the FLDS or the All Red group or the Kingston group. And so they practice it all over the Rocky Mountains,
I have so many
Montana,
questions.
Utah, etc. So
Oh,
that's
I'm so
the
sorry.
demographic there.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that. I have so many questions, Janet.
Yeah,
I'm all
and
over the place right now. No, this is it truly is of interest to me because it's something with which I'm completely unfamiliar and I've only had passing and brief conversations on the subject matter.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
thank you for your transparency and for sharing because this my interest is truly from a place of wanting to learn and be educated. So when you were sharing with us about fundamentalists and Now, my understanding is that a fundamentalist is a person who believes in like very strict or the like literal interpretation of scripture and
Right,
religion.
right.
Okay. So when you were using the terminology of patriarchy and you were talking about the male being the Lord and King, is
Mhm.
that are those terms used at all?
Well, if you look at the Bible, you can find evidence of polygyny.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Solomon had, I mean, not 800, 900 wives and concubines, and so you can find some evidence of this. Of course, Jacob, remember Jacob, who then became Israel, who was the son of Isaac. He wanted to marry the beautiful Rachel, and I imagine she had red hair. I don't know where that comes from.
Okay.
I'm not sure. But Ishmael, the father said, okay, you have to work 7 years of bride service in order to have Rachel. He finished the bride service, and then the father switched out Leah for Rachel and said, Leah's the eldest. You have to marry her. So he did. Jacob married Leah first, but then he worked 7 more years for the one he wanted, Rachel.
Mhm,
So there's
mhm.
another example of
Well,
poly or plural marriage.
Well, I want to be clear because I was clear on that. I was definitely most absolutely definitely clear on that. I was asking more so about the terminology that you used. You
Mm.
used specific words. You said when you were referring to the patriarchy, you said that the male would be lord and king. So I was
Right.
asking about the words specifically, not about polygamy. I'm clear on that and
I
as it
think
relates
that
or
that's a
pertains.
bit of an exaggeration, really.
Okay.
What
Okay.
they call them in the Mormon parlance for a man who's in charge of his family, he is the savior on Mount Zion. He's the one that is the patriarch of his family, and his responsibility is the well-being and salvation of all of his group. That may be huge. I mean, I've seen genealogies that would blow your mind, where
Mm,
one man, J. Lyman Jessup is one that I studied, and
okay.
he had 13 wives, and they each had, 12 to 13 children. So you can imagine that's a lot of
That's that's a
grandchildren,
lot.
a
So
lot of great grandchildren.
I'm so curious to know because you were sharing that this has been in your lineage, polygamy, not polyamory, right?
Right.
Polygamy has been in your lineage. What made you want to study others who practice polygamy and polyamory? I can.
Well, okay, so like I said, the Orthodox Mormon Church stopped practicing this at the turn of the century, 1900s. And so my family got out of it around 1906, I think the canon branch, but I have ancestors who are polygamists. So my great great grandfather um, had 3 wives on the Bennion side. On
Okay.
the Cannon side, my great great grandfather had 8 wives. The Benson side, I think he had 8 wives. I'll have to look that up again.
Okay.
So I'm a descendant of plural marriage, but the reason why I studied it is because they are some of the most interesting, complex relationships that you can find.
I am there.
Sharing a spouse, being a co-spouse with somebody and
Sure.
working through the domestic problems, the practical things that you work through, who's going to pay the bills, who's going to clean the house, whose turn it is to make love to your spouse, and if you're thinking about the co-wives, they've got to arrange the sexual schedule. They've got to, do it very carefully because when you live with a lot of women, your menstrual cycle synchronizes.
Sure. That's right.
Like in college, remember?
That's
Your
right.
roommate
That's
or
right. No,
sisters.
that's how
And
about
so
that.
that means it's kind of tricky to figure out, okay, who's ready to conceive. If your goal is to have a lot of children, you want to know
Um,
this. So
oh wait,
you have
Janet,
to
I'm so
orchestrate.
sorry. I got lost in the time in the conversation, but I'm looking at the time. It's time
Okay,
for us to take a commercial break, but we're
okay.
coming right back to this conversation because I want to know so much. Family, listen, the phone lines are open and feel free to continue to comment on our socials. But whatever you do, stay with us because we will be right back.
June is Black Music Month, and this year, the WURD Message in the Music series presents Trans Afro Express, the global impact of African, Caribbean, and African American music. Join us on Friday, June 14th from 6 p.m. until 11 p.m. at World Cafe Live, 3025 Walnut Street. This event features a panel discussion, live performances, and the flyest Afrobeat, reggae, hip-hop, and R&B dance party in Philly. If you love to dance and you want to learn more about the global impact of our music, then join us Friday, June 14th from 6 p.m. until 11 p.m. at World Cafe Live. Admission is $20 in advance, $25 at the door. Get your tickets now at worldradio.com. This Black Music Month event is in partnership with Fun Times Magazine and brought to you by the Pennsylvania Lottery, Comcast, Keystone First, and Pico.
Is your child stuck in a school that doesn't meet their needs? What if you had $10,000 to send them to the school of your choice? It's possible. Lawmakers are considering a program to offer kids a free scholarship to better, safer schools. If enacted, your children could each qualify for up to $10,000. But lawmakers must hear that parents like you need these scholarships. Visit lifelinescholarships.com to learn more and secure your child's future. Paid for by Commonwealth Foundation.
Family Therapy Vignette Moments with Dr. Lucille Ijoy. It's the month of May. I have a question. Come on now, take note. Did you register to vote during the primary? I say, did you register to vote? If you did, stand with the crowd. Yes, I voted, and I will say it loud. You don't have to fret. Just take a deep breath. June, July, August, September. Watch it now. In a minute, it's going to be November. I say, watch it and remember, it's going to be November. Oh, the summertime will fool you. This you must remember. October, November. It's time to take note. Tuesday, November the 5th. It's time to vote. I say Tuesday, November the 5th. It's time to vote. This is Dr. Lucille Ijoy, and say it with me. Tuesday, November the 5th. It's time to vote.
Hey, everything okay?
Yes, I'm fine.
Honey. Hey, I'm here for you. Tell me about school today.
When kids can't find the right words, music can help them sound it out. Talk to the kids in your life about their emotional well-being. Find tools and resources at sounditouttogether.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and Pivotal Ventures.
No, what's the word, boy? What's the word? What's the word?
WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media. You're listening to Love and Life with Carol Riddick on WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media.
Well, hey there, family. We are back. Welcome back to Love and Life with Carol Riddick right here on WURD. We are talking with Janet Bennion, and she is educating me. I'm sure you all already know all of this, but she's educating me in this hour on polygamy, polyamory, and other aspects of multiple marriage. Before the break, Janet was sharing with us about, well, who and what, how, certain things and aspects of a multiple marriage are determined. So I'm curious to know, Janet, so who puts the schedule together, or who determines how the schedule will be set in a multiple marriage?
Well, it's typically the women, and there is the boss lady. The first wife is usually the one to orchestrate sexual schedules and organize, collective use of certain parts of the house,
Sure.
and everyone's contributing something. I mean, some of the most successful families are where the women collaborate in an interdependent network so that shit gets done. There's going to be one wife that stays home, takes care of the children. 2 wives go out and work and then pool their resources for food and supplies. Another wife might be really good at, gathering honey or milking the cow. And meanwhile, their husband, you're wondering, well, what is he doing? Sometimes he's not working.
Okay.
Sometimes he is. It depends on the family. Sometimes he's a writer scholar. Sometimes he's a construction worker. And often he leaves the state. Sometimes he has a wife in another state. So what really happens is inadvertently, these women grow to become really strongly connected. They have to be for survival if their husband's always gone and money is tight. And this network that they build is a really, it can be a very positive thing for raising children collectively with 3 to 4 women, because there's always going to be someone around for the kids. There's always going to be, that expertise you can tap into. But that's when it works well. Okay. It works well when the women are in charge of that. But in some cases, you find that there are some polygamous families that are abusive, where women are mistreated, children are mistreated. This is true of monogamy as well. Okay, it happens in monogamy, where there might be child abuse or wife battery, or where women are left out of the loop, not educated and not cared for. They don't have job training. So you can find that in monogamy, but in some of these isolated polygamous fundamentalist groups, it's really common, if they're very isolated from the mainstream, that they can be abusive.
So why do you believe that polygamous relationships are looked down upon in today's day and age?
Well, any poly relationship is looked down on, whether it's polygyny or polyamory. People don't understand it, and we've been force-fed monogamy for so long. We feel like that is the only thing that's going to be correct and right under God or whatever. So I think that there is this traditional way of looking at it as subversive, as deviant. And in reality, some poly forms of love and marriage are exactly what people need. It's a minority of the case that that's true, because these forms are very difficult to live. You have to get over your jealousies. You have to be able to juggle many relationships.
That's a lot. Oh my goodness, Janet, that sounds like a lot. When you say get over your jealousies, talking about managing, so let me ask you this. If you're born into a family, well, let me ask you this. If you're born into a family that practices polygamy, if you are a child that does not want to be in a polygamous relationship, does that fare well?
It depends on the group. Some groups are more strict, and others are easygoing and almost progressive. Like the All Red group has a little bit more freedom, and they're practicing a more progressive style. And that means that you're educated in the mainstream. You go to school with the public education system, and you get a job, and you dress like everyone in the mainstream, but you're still maintaining plural marriages. Your kids can do what they want. On average, it's only about 15 to 20% of the men who can actually practice plural marriage in these groups, because there's just not enough women to go around. And these are typically the patriarchs, the leaders. Sometimes they stand out as being really good with women, meaning that they're actually really good listeners, that that women love to be around them, that they let the women lead. Those are really good patriarchs, that when they let the women lead. But then what are these other 80% of the other men do? They're kind of beta males. They're left out of that. So they have to go outside in the mainstream to get wives, or they have to hope that there's some women left over, and so there's this atrophy of males going out and a conversion of females going in to make it work.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Oh my goodness. Family, I do want to acknowledge that you are checking in. Willie Matthew Williams, our beloved, he's sending a happy Monday to everyone. Our love light, Ms. Lily, shares that she finds this conversation very interesting.
She
Very,
wants to hear about polyamory.
yeah, yes,
Good
yes.
one, Lily.
OMG. Gary Bryan is joining us as well. And Miss Lily, I did see your message. I hope to see you at one of my shows soon. I'm going to go to the phone lines because we have some family members waiting to join the conversation. I'm going to go to line 1. Hello, and thank you so much for calling. Welcome to the conversation.
Hello, Cal. Hello,
Hi,
ma'am.
Ron.
Yes, I want to talk about creation in outer order. We go back way before Jesus, the Christ. And isn't a God, a wonderful God, when he created the earth, when he built the archangel Gabriel to fly down and see what I have created. It is men, and that for many years, they have changed the order of things. They have accepted and adopted different things. I like to use that female line. She is the one that goes out and do the hunting for the family. God created that for that to be. People have came down through the years, have came out of creation and adopted their own laws, and that's very, very important. Once again, we go back before Jesus Christ. So what I'm saying here, anytime, why did he come and destroy the world? Let's look at the abomination that's taking place. A woman cannot do what a man does. A man cannot do what a woman does. He do not have ovaries to bring life in front of this world, ma'am. And I hear what you're saying. So in the by and by, it would take care of itself that things are out of order. And so I'll shut up with that. But I want to say this to you, Cal, and say to the listening audience, you know, you had on your program about health. The Lord give us our health and strength, and then he sent people like medical people to study this anatomy. And we're going on the 16th. The Philadelphia Corporation's having something for all the men to come out. And I heard you say in one of your programs that it's very important that men get their checkups. And I heard other programs on the station where they talk about the men, along with the women, need to take care of their health. So that's going to take place on the 16th, and we certainly hope that we will be able to say them about love and life, and that's what life is all about. Whether it's love and life here, it's throughout the universe, and they happen to be on this station. And on Saturday, I just want to thank Ivan Robinson, the welterweight champ, for allowing me to come up to their program, their boxing program, with some of the elders older than me that is still with us. And we was here with the young youth boxers, the boxers of the future that's coming on now. And we had a chance to chat with them. So I give thanks to that. And let me say one other thing. The by and by takes care of itself. The writer wrote something in one of the songs, Cal, says that, he said, when John Newman wrote that song, Amazing Grace, said, I once was blind, but now I see. Yeah. I once was lost, but now I'm found. And when you find yourself before leaving this life in this world, I told everyone, certainly hope. Everyone will say what John the Baptist has said, maybe uttered these words before asking for repent. He said, repent. And I think we all have to repent. It's not being judgmental, because we're coming, everything in this life that we're facing today, that we're facing with, the Almighty God give us the solutions to be a part or not to be a part. So
Ron, I thank you. I'm sorry. I thank you for that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, as always. Thank you so much. I'm going to go to line 2. Thank you so much for joining the conversation, and thank you for your patience. I'm going to ask you to keep your comment to a minimum because we're trying to stay within a certain amount of time. So thank you for calling.
Good evening, Miss Carol, Miss Janet. James from North Philly.
How are you, James?
Okay, I would like to say that, what is it, polyamory?
Yes.
Okay, it sounds like a lot of energy for the guy. I mean,
I like that comment. That's
you know, but on facts, as far as generational wealth, I mean, it has to be. Can you explain that? I mean, generational wealth.
Yeah. How does a family with multiple marriages maintain or establish generational wealth? Is that the question?
Yes.
Okay, Janet.
I really don't think there's a correlation with this with polygyny. I think you're talking about polygyny, not polyamory. Polygyny is where the man is he has several wives, and you're right, it requires a lot of energy of him. And I don't think that he's going to be able to pass on much wealth at all, especially in these groups where some of his wealth is going back to the church. So I don't think that generational wealth is really going to be a factor. I think that many of these men in this group are in construction work, and so they teach their sons to do construction work, and then they get hired, but they don't really make a lot of money.
Okay, I get this, Janet.
No, not like Mitt Romney in the mainstream church, okay? But we're talking about an offshoot fundamentalist group that practices polygyny. And your original comment, James, was so right. These men have no energy after they have, 3 wives, 4 wives, and all those children. How do they remember birthdays and anniversaries? And how do they find their own space? Sometimes I find these guys hiding in their truck just to want to go in the house. No way. They're hiding because they know that they're going to be stretched for time.
I bet.
Viagra,
You're talking, what was that, James?
Viagra, H2O.
Yeah, Viagra is actually something that they are using now because, they marry younger wives and they want to keep their wives happy, so they use Viagra.
Wow. Well, there you have it, James.
To those who need it. But you all have a good evening.
Thank you. You as well. We love you more. Family, for those of you who have just joined us, welcome. Welcome, welcome. You are tuned in to Love and Life with Carol Riddick right here on WURD. In this hour, we are talking with the one and only Dr. Janet Bennion, and she is sharing with us about polygamy, polyamory, and things of that nature, I will say, because they're at the risk of sounding crazy because I'm learning. I am so interested in this conversation. I've shared already how grateful I am for you to come and talk with us because there's so little that I do know. We're going to take another commercial break in a moment, but I'm going to ask this question before we go so that when we come back, you'll be able to answer. Now, polyandry, I believe that was the
polyamory.
Well, now there was another term that I saw.
Well, polyandry is where you have one woman who's marrying 2 or more men.
Okay, so I was right. That's
right.
Okay, so I am okay. Yes, that's what I was going to ask you about. So that's when there's. Can you explain?
That's rare.
That's one woman who has more than.
Yes, it's like the opposite of polygyny. So we've been using the word polygamy to connote the same thing as polygyny, but there is also polyandry. And that is where one woman has more than one husband. And just within the last 5 years, there was a Kenyan couple who wanted to, a trio, where a woman was granted an official civil marriage certificate to marry 2 men. And that had never been done before in Kenya. It's usually one man marrying more than one wife. So this was the first time for polyandry in Kenya to be approved by the state.
Well, I want to know where it's typical because you know what? Well, we're going to take a commercial break. When we come back,
okay. When we come back,
talk about polyandry. Family, stay with us.
You got it.
We're talking when we come back.
Hey there, it's Tiffany Bacon, and I'm the host of a new show, Breaking Bread, Sundays at 11 a.m. beginning May 19th. Check out our very first episode where we feature Booker's Restaurant and Bar. My guest will be the co-owner of Booker's, Cherie Syfax, and Ernest Owens, editor of Eater Philly and host of City Council Live on Word Radio. Tune in as we discuss Black brunch culture while sampling the menu at Booker's. Who knows, this may be your next brunch destination. information. Tune in for some mouth-watering conversation on Breaking Bread, Sunday, May 19th at 11 a.m. on air and online at wordradio.com. We are WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media.
Hey, this is AJ with your Penn Medicine Cares in the Community Update. Join Penn Medicine for Health Talk Tuesdays on Tuesday, May 14th, 4 p.m. at the Free Library Parkway Central Branch, 1901 Vine Street. This month, we're discussing anxiety and learning healthy ways to cope with Dr. Lily Brown, clinical psychologist and director of the Center for the Treatment and Study of Anxiety at Penn. At Penn Medicine, our mission is improving the health of people we serve. Visit pennmedicine.org/community and learn more.
Get ready to kick off summer with the new instant $1 million jackpot from the Pennsylvania Lottery. Scoot on down to your local retailer for your chance to win big. Don't delay. Pick up yours today. Players must be 18 or older. Please play responsibly. Problem Gambling Helpline, 1-800-GAMBLER.
Want to get out of just about anything and look like an earth-saving hero? Just use the environment excuse. High school reunion? Sorry, can't. Planetary obligations. Unfortunate bridesmaid's dress. Unfortunately, you promised the climate you'd buy more vintage. Chauffeuring teens? The earth really needs them to hoof it. The environment is always the best excuse. Find your out and opt in to Cutting Carbon. Just visit theenvironmentexcuse.org. Brought to you by WildAid.
Man, I loved playing high school sports growing up. And it's fun being a fan now, don't get me wrong, but sitting in the stands feels like I'm missing out on all the action, you know? I wanted to get back in the game, so I signed up to be a high school official. It takes me back to my playing days. I'm supporting students, and I get paid to make the big calls. Do you want to see the game up close? Sign up to become an official in Pennsylvania at highschoolofficials.com.
No, what's the word, boy? What's the word? What's the word?
WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media.
Let me tell you something, and don't you ever forget it. Success is nothing without someone you love to share it with.
You're listening to Love and Life with Carol Riddick on WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media.
And we are back. Welcome back to Love and Life with Carol Riddick, right here on WURD. We are talking with Dr. Janet Bennion. And before the commercial break, I love the change in light. I love the sunset, Janet.
Right there.
But before the commercial break, I asked about polyandry. And Janet shared with us that polyandry is when one woman has more than one husband.
Yes.
Oh,
and it's common in Tibet and the Himalayas, Nepal, but it's got an interesting twist because it's associated with a culture-bound disorder called Doladuka, and it's where the women get overworked. They've got 3 husbands that are also brothers. So it's fraternal polyandry. They're all related. And she's got to serve them. She's got to bed them. She's got to take care of the children. So she gets overworked. And so she gets these pregnancy symptoms and it happens automatically. She just, feels like she's pregnant. So when that happens, she's supposed to be in bed and her husbands give her sweets and they do her work. So you can imagine these kind of symptoms happen often. So it's kind of, the opposite of that man in his truck not wanting to go into the house because he's got too many wives. Well, it's the woman who wants to avoid all the work that 3 husbands would, require.
That sounds like so much. But
you should know something. I forgot to tell you. In the last 20 years, there's been an increase in a particular unique polygyny demographic in Chicago and other inner city areas among Black Muslim women, and especially those who convert to Islam.
Okay.
Because they're looking for one good man,
Okay.
and they're willing to share that one good man with another woman. So polygyny is on the rise among that cohort. And there have been several ethnographies recently written on it. It's very interesting. So it's not just Mormon fundamentalists that are interested in polygyny or polygamy, but Black Muslim women are also in America, in inner cities, are climbing on that bandwagon.
Wow. So can you tell me once more, and I'm sorry to have you repeat yourself, about polyamory? So when, you know what, I'm going to stop there. Can you share once more about polyamory?
I love polyamory. It's my favorite of all studies. In fact, I loved it so much I started practicing it myself.
Okay.
I met who is now one of my partners in, I met him in Vienna at a conference on non-monogamy.
Okay.
And so he introduced that to me, and I had been only studying polygyny and not practicing it. And so what polyamory is that it's the ability for you to love more than one person. And your partner is also possibly loving more than one person. They may or may not be doing that. It could be that you're the one that's poly and they're monogamous. They only have you. But it's the invitation and this word compersion that I wrote to you in the chat is where you're okay with your partner being in love with somebody else. And it's more than just getting over your jealousy. It's that you've given permission and that you're okay with it and that you allow it and that they can love that person. They can define it how they wish. It could be a sexual relationship. It could be asexual, but it's basically allowing for that freedom of love without restriction. And the only requirement is honesty and consent and communication. So it's consensual. It's using the ideal that you're an adult, that you're giving your consent, and you're giving your compersion or your ability to extend that empathy for your partner to fulfill themselves with somebody else.
Wow. So
that's what it is. And there's no restrictions. It doesn't, any gender can have as many partners as they wish. So it's much better for women and the queer community than polygyny is.
Yeah.
You can imagine.
So you and he are in a polyamorous relationship.
Right.
Do you have other partners?
Sure. Yeah. And we have like in any situation, ebb and flow of partners. Sometimes I don't have another partner. Sometimes I do. And I don't get to see this Vienna partner very often, twice a year, because I'm in Vermont. And so of course I have someone here in this region.
Sure.
And my Vienna partner is perfectly fine with it. His partner is perfectly fine with it. And we talk about it often. We communicate often.
So would you and he be the main partners in this relationship?
No.
Or no?
He and his partner in Vienna are the primary.
Primary.
And we can call it primary. We can call it your anchor.
Okay.
In some cases, polyamory requires no hierarchy like that you love all of your partners equally. In most cases, there's a hierarchy because, maybe you're sharing children with one partner. That means that partner is a little bit more important to your world, because you're sharing children with them. But again, the values from this lifestyle are openness, very keen and mature communication, emotional maturity, consent, and empathy. And so really, it's not that bad. These are good values. But not a lot of people can do it. It can be very complex and tricky.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, do the dynamics change between the partners if, um, well, like you just stated, your Vermont partner, he and the other partner are the primaries. If you, hypothetically speaking, were to have children, would you and he become the primary partners in this scenario, or
It really depends on your needs, and they
Okay.
fluctuate, don't they? I mean, in any monogamous relationship, don't you find that your needs are ebbing and flowing during certain parts of your life?
Life. I was about to say we call that life.
So yeah.
Right,
And
right.
so if with one of your partners, if you find that there's something more that engages your time with that person, then the other partner will, like an accordion, acquiesce and move their world a little bit outside that bubble. And it's all about communicating and making sure that whatever the relationship is, that you go through that transformation with ease and grace. There's no real need to break up, in such a scenario, unless it's toxic. But you can say, okay, well, our relationship has changed. Maybe it's not a sexual one anymore. Maybe
Right.
we're going to just be buddies, friends, cuddling and watching a show and love each other that way. And why not? In this kind of ideology, you can expand your community to allow for that kind of thing without the world going, oh my God, she's hanging out with him, So
Which
there's
and that
a
does
little
happen.
more freedom and, like I said, grace.
I did not see this question. Eric, I'm so sorry, but Eric has joined the conversation. Hi there. He asks, do you think that polyamorous relationships are healthy if there are children involved?
Can be. In some cases, it's a superior way. In other ways, no. I mean, if you've got multiple partners on hand and they can be helpful, that is so much easier than if you're a single mom with 2 kids. I was a single mom with 2 kids and I needed a network. Well, with polyamory, you've got a built-in network.
But what about family?
With family too. I mean, it just extends it. You've just got a bigger community. So you've got your children and you've got your partner, and maybe your partner's partner is on hand. They can help out. And maybe your other partner can be there too. So you're stuck at work. You can't get to your kid's tennis lesson and they need a ride. Call up what we call a metamor, your partner's partner, and they can pick them up for you.
Wow.
How many times have I needed a co-spouse to pick my daughter up after a lesson? I could have used that.
Wow, family. Well, here we are. We are talking with Dr. Bennion. And we are talking about polygamy, polyamory, polyandry. Eric has another question. We've got like 30 seconds. Eric asks, what happens if the male decides you're too old or you don't satisfy him as in the past emotionally? How does the female adjust to that split? Emotionally, that can't end easily or gracefully.
Well, it could be the other way. She could find that you're too old. So if that's the case and she's got another interest or you've got another interest, you have to communicate that and figure out, well, how does that shift the nature of our original relationship? And also, if you're leaving her, she's going to have to be given permission to find a new lover too. Because women's sexual trajectory just keeps going up. And men at 45 plateaus or goes down. So you can imagine that women also want that freedom of having another partner.
Janet, I can't thank you enough. And I really do hope that
interesting
you will come back.
Didn't it?
I mean, no, the entire conversation is of interest to me. I hope that you will come back and talk with us again.
Sure, it's been a pleasure.
I have so enjoyed this conversation. Thank you
You're
so much. Family, we have to let Janet run. Dr. Bennion has to go. Well, we're going to go to commercial break, but stay with us because we've got another full hour when we come back. See you, Janet. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye.
It's the WURD Hot 60. Hot 60. Here's the hottest 60 seconds you missed on Reality Check.
We have someone who has contributed so much to the culture and to the world of acting, and he's so special, he only goes by one name. Introducing Leon. You've played so many iconic roles, and everybody, I think, has their favorite. Is there one that you particularly like or that you felt was such a stretch for you that you remember it more than others? And what's the one that you're recognized for the most?
Wow. Okay. That's a loaded question right there. The role that I like the most is the one that you like the most. I don't watch my movies.
Okay.
So whatever one you like, that's the one I like. It's like asking somebody, which one of your kids you like the most.
Right. And that's your hottest 60 seconds from Reality Check on WURD Progressive. Black Talk Media.
Every day, thousands of Comcast engineers and technologists like Oluseyi put people at the heart of everything they create.
Some of my favorite moments throughout my life are watching sports with my dad. Now I work at Comcast as part of the team that created our AI highlight technology, which uses AI to detect the major plays in a sports game.
And now, millions of sports fans will never miss a moment. Visit ComcastCorporation.com to learn more.
Sometimes it seems the crises just keep coming for children. COVID, war, drought, and famine. They can seem downright relentless. But you know what? So can our response. When helping children unites us, we are a force to be reckoned with. Where there is help, there is hope. It's why UNICEF won't stop, ever. Learn more at unicefusa.org/we won't stop.
When I first had my baby, I'd get comments all the time about how happy I must be. I remember thinking, I want to be happy. Why don't I feel that way? It was hard to admit that, even to my doctor. But I'm glad I did. She told me it was postpartum depression, and that is very treatable. These days, things are feeling good, and we're both happier about that. Right, little man? I'll take that as a yes.
Mental health care is working for Simone. See what it can do for you at mentalhealthcareworks.org. A message from the American Psychiatric Association Foundation.
Check out New World View with host David Barnes Sundays at 12 noon. New World View brings the Word listeners a unique perspective in advocating change by shaping positive views and opinions through various musical genres. That's New World View on Sundays at 12 noon on WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media.
People say our country is facing polarization like never before. At Inform Your Community, we're on a mission to change that narrative. We believe that even in disagreement, we can find common ground and work towards solutions with respect. At Inform Your Community, we know the best way to talk about difficult topics is to talk about difficult topics. We're here to educate, bridge gaps, and encourage dialogue by providing engaging, welcoming, and meaningful events that discuss the timely civic issues that matter to you most. At informyourcommunity.org, we foster an environment of civility and respect. Here, we value productive dialogue over hostility and strive for understanding. To learn more about a movement that believes in the power of respectful discourse to heal our communities and address crucial issues that you care about, please visit informyourcommunity.org. We have a motto at Inform Your Community: civility, not hostility.
Celebrating Black excellence worldwide and bringing joy and power to the people. This is WURD 900 AM and 96.1 FM, Philadelphia. Streaming online on wordradio.com and the Word Radio app.
What is love?
You're listening to Love and Life on WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media.
I think I know what love is.
Well, hey there, family. Welcome back. Welcome to the top of the second hour of Love and Life with Carol Riddick right here on WURD. Family, I don't know about you, but I am still digesting the conversation we just had in the last hour. I was so anxious to have the conversation because I had so many questions, but I still have so many questions. Nick and I had brief communication during the commercial break, and we are both in agreement that it's definitely a lifestyle, but it's certainly not for everyone. Certainly not for everyone. But this is the world in which we live. There is so much in the world. So, all right, moving forward in this hour. Now, our love light, who is coming to visit with us again in this hour, I hope that you will remember him. I just adored him when he visited with us the last time. His name is Bob Woodson Sr. He is the founder and president of the Woodson Center, 1776 United, and Voices of Black Mothers United. He is an influential leader on issues of poverty, alleviation, and empowering disadvantaged communities to become agents of their own uplift. He's a frequent advisor to local, state, and federal government officials, as well as business and philanthropic organizations. I invite you to the conversation with none other than Mr. Bob Woodson. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome back. Welcome back. It's been a
Always
while.
good. This is hometown. I'm from Philly, and so this is home. This is a homecoming.
You know what? I did not remember that. Why did I not remember that? I was so excited that you were coming back to visit with us, and I did not remember that.
That's right. Yeah. Born in South Philadelphia and raised at 57th and Girard Avenue. Went to Overbrook. I was in with Will Chamberlain from Brook School, the Shoemaker Junior High School.
Wait, you were born in South Philadelphia?
Yes, ma'am. 18th and Dickerson and Reed, Garrett Street.
What? Oh my God.
Right now, there's a Starbucks 2 blocks from there, so I couldn't afford to move back.
Listen, I can't afford my old neighborhood right now. It's something else. It is. But so happy to have you join us again. So my understanding tonight is that we are going to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, the rise and fall of it. What a conversation. What a conversation. You know, at one point in time, I believe I heard it so often. There was always a DE&I officer. There was always a DE&I conversation. There was always a discussion, but I don't hear it as much. I don't hear it as much currently. I don't hear it as much. And I'm curious to know if you would say that's been your experience.
Yeah, I think people know that it was a hustle when it was established. It is a hustle now. The American corporation, right after George Floyd, the politically correct thing to do was to latch on to DEI. It was established, as an expression of so-called pursuing justice. And so everything became racialized. The corporations spend $8 billion on DEI programs. There are law firms who had to get certified. If you enter into a contract, you got to have a DEI agreement attached to it. The University of Virginia right now spends $20 million a year on DEI training, and one of the staff members makes $500,000. There are DEI consulting firms run by middle-class Blacks who are going around the country having training sessions to make white people less racist. And I think people are realizing that this has just been, they're pursuing fool's gold. That the problems facing particularly low-income Blacks have nothing to do with what white people are doing, have or have not done. It's a deflection away from the critical problems that we face. And that our problems right now are internal. So if white people went to Canada and Europe tomorrow, you could not walk safely in our communities. It would not create one job. But again, it's a distraction. There are the biggest income gap is between not whites and blacks, but low income blacks and upper income blacks.
Really?
And so it is important to recognize that race right now is being used, DEI, as a hustle. But people are realizing it, that white people are not getting the return on their investment. And it's being ignored by low income blacks. And so it's not any surprise that it's on decline.
So why do you believe it has taken place for so long, these DEI initiatives and programs? Or
because I mean, race is a very sensitive issue to any black person. I mean, it'd be crazy to say that it isn't. But you got to understand that there are people over the last 50 years who have exploited it, particularly a lot of, well, I mean, I was a veteran of the civil rights movement. I used to lead demonstrations in Westchester, Pennsylvania, at the home of Baird Rustin. I left the civil rights movement when I realized that a lot of people who suffered and sacrificed most didn't benefit from the change. We picketed outside of a pharmaceutical company, Wyeth Laboratories, and when they desegregated, they hired 9 black PhD chemists. We asked them to join the movement. They said, no, well, they got this because they were qualified. Well, so I realized that there's a bait and switch game going on, that we use as bait the demographics of low income blacks and others. And when the money arrives, it doesn't go to those people in whose name it was raised, but it goes to those who serve the people.
So let me ask you this. I want to make sure I understand. So is it your belief that none of the DE&I initiatives or programs have been helpful?
It's been harmful.
Okay.
It's been harmful because it deflects attention away from the critical problems of black on black crime, of high unemployment, of all the other problems that low income people face. For the past 40 years, my organization serves low income people.
Okay.
I wrote the book on Sister Fatah's program right there on House of Umoja. That's the kind of initiatives we need to be invested in. Initiatives that changes the behavior of our young people internally.
So now I understand that we do have initiatives of the like, but we don't have a lot of them. But I want to go back to your response about the DE&I initiatives being harmful. So you don't believe raising awareness, or bringing attention is helpful in any way?
Listen, in my book, I interviewed a woman named Mrs. Griffin. She lost all 4 of her sons to homicide before the ages of 30.
Okay.
Tell me what DEI has to do with that.
I think we're mixing apples and oranges.
Yeah, I know. But all I'm saying is that money is being spent on race training of white people that could be invested in initiatives in these communities that are addressing the issues of our young people. There are a lot of worthwhile, positive programs going on throughout America in low-income neighborhoods that are starving for monies that are being spent on race grievance programs. That's my point.
Okay. And I do understand that I am in agreement that we do not have enough programs, enough money going to programs of the like. I am in agreement with that. But I believe that DE&I initiatives can be helpful and have been in some
Well, then explain to me
circumstances.
how they're helpful.
Number one, like I was asking you about, raising awareness about that. I think that is very helpful, because if I'm in a corporate environment and it's hostile to me if racism is running rampant and it's not being addressed. If someone's not held accountable, I think that's hostile. That's a hostile work environment.
If I'm in a corporate environment.
Well, we were talking. Okay.
It's whenever you generalize about a group of people, and then you try to apply a remedy to the whole group, It always helps those that are in the corporate environment at the expense of those who are not. Some years ago, for instance, when the whole Me Too movement came along, it was started by a young Black woman in Harlem who wanted her friends who were being abused to have a voice.
Yes.
Middle class women got a hold of it, and then it suddenly became celebrities being sexually abused on Harvey Weinstein's casting couch. And so what was the solution for the women's movement? It was more opportunities for women in corporate America, more lawyers. But at the same time, there was a 2-hour documentary on the sexual assault of women in prisons. It did not generate any discussion because all of the perpetrators were Black and all of the victims were Black. It did not generate, it was a 2-hour special. It didn't generate any outcry or people saying we need to look out for these women.
But see, like you said, I think the same thing exists in this scenario. Like to your point, what you were saying is the Me Too movement was started by a woman of, I would say, modest income, I believe, and then it was taken over. It moved. It was taken over by women of a different demographic who had more money to put into their initiative. But I think the same thing goes here. If we're just talking about DE&I in the workplace, that's totally different than what's happening outside and on the street. Like you said, there needs to be more money put into what's taking place in our neighborhoods. I think they're two different things. I think that addressing racism in the workplace, I think that's important. It's just as important as the other initiative. They're two.
But,
I think
but it's coming at the expense of it. I would agree with you if equal amounts of attention and time and resources were spent dealing with both, but they're not.
No, I agree with that.
You have not heard of all these women in prison who are being sexually assaulted. All they wanted was to have a phone that if, when they were being attacked, that they could call and get some help. There was not one discussion about any group marching on behalf of these women, Black and brown, who are in these prisons. Everything is focused on, oh, we need to get more women in corporate America. You're going to mandate that every board of directors has so many women on it. We're going to mandate that the women be hired as lawyers for these. It all helps those at the upper income bracket, Black, white, particularly Black, at the expense of those at the bottom.
I feel like the issue is funding or the lack thereof. Because
I bet you haven't seen one discussion of the sexual assault of women in prisons.
I have not. I am completely unaware. That's something about which I know nothing, and I had no idea it was an issue until you just said it.
Exactly, but it was the subject of a 2-hour documentary on one of the major networks, and the next week it was not discussed on one other mainstream media show. None of the civil rights organizations ever stepped up and said, we need to address this injustice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is what I'm talking about. But everybody knows about DEI and the need to make white people more sensitive to Black people in the workforce and in corporate boardrooms and in corporations. Yeah, that's fine. But those are not the people in prisons.
So again, we're mixing. We're talking about two different things. Let me make this clear.
Pot of money. I'm talking about it's not apples and oranges when you consider where should we be investing our not just money, but
our time, our energy, and resources.
Giving these women some relief. What are we doing to give those women who are in these prisons relief from being sexually assaulted every day by their guards?
So we're talking about assault. We're talking about racism. We're talking about a few different things here. It all needs to be addressed.
Yeah,
it all does.
The only thing is being addressed is the whole race thing. And we're investing millions in that. We put 100 million into Black Lives Matter. What did that accomplish? But you don't see anybody having specials looking at the exploitation that went on there.
So if you're talking about these women, you stated that these are Black and brown women that are being raped, sexually assaulted.
Yes, ma'am. It was something. Geraldo Rivera did a 2-hour special. You can look it up. 2-hour special on sexual assault of women in prisons.
What, recently?
No, in the past 7 to 8 years.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
But there has been no other special on that because anytime if the perpetrator is Black and the victim is Black, it's a non-issue. The only time we get upset is when the villain is white and the victim is Black.
Do we have like current statistics on that?
Yes, ma'am.
We do.
I'll be glad to share it with you.
Well, please. I welcome that. I do. Again, I'm always open to being educated. I'm always open to conversations. Family. If you have just joined us, welcome. Welcome. You are tuned in to Love and Life with Carol Riddick right here on WURD. We are talking with the one and only Mr. Bob Woodson Sr. So family, I'm going to say to you, because I had the understanding that we were focusing on DE&I in the workplace. That was what, that was where I was. That's what I thought but you know what? It's all right with me to pivot. We can talk about whatever it is. I do want to share our family members they are contributing to the conversation, and I want you to do that. I invite you to the conversation all the time. You can call us if you choose to do so. You can do that by dialing 215-634-8065, or you can even call us toll free. You can do that by dialing 1-866-361-0900. So in the past few moments, for those of you who did not catch that, we've been talking about the sexual assault of Black and brown women in the prison system. This is what we've been talking about. And in a moment or so, we're going to take a commercial break, but Mr. Woodson has shared that he does have some statistics on that. He has some information that he's going to share with us on that. And I welcome that, because like I said, I have never had this conversation before and am completely uneducated in on this topic, on this subject matter. So I welcome it. Our family members are commenting, and they do have some questions. I'm going to share those as well, because I started the conversation about DE&I because I had the misunderstanding that that's where we were going. But that's all right, family, because that's what we do here anyway, right? We ride the wave. But Mr. Woodson, before we go to commercial break, the statistics that you're going to share with us, how current are they as it pertains to?
Very current. Part of what the Woodson Center does, we have that book, Red, White, and Black, Rescuing America from Revisionist History and Race Hustlers. And in there, we get positive stories of what Black folks did in the past. In other words, even under segregation, we built hospitals, we built railroads, we built our own institutions. We closed the education gap in the South from 3 years to 6 months because of our own self-help efforts. So people are motivated to change and improve when you show them visions of victories that are possible. And the question I have for you is that we were able to close the education gap at the turn of the century. If we were able to outperform white schools in 5 of our high schools, why can't we do it today when Blacks are running the systems? In other words, and we offer evidence of what I'm talking about, not Bob Woodson's opinion or his argument. That doesn't mean anything. Everything that I'm saying, I can support with facts. And so our books and our program is intended not to dwell on what failed, we spend too much time talking about how we are victims.
I understand that. Mr. Woodson, I'm going to put a pin in that right now because we're going to take a commercial break, but we're coming back. We're talking about this. We are not leaving it right there. Family, stay with us because we are coming right back.
Meet Amanda. She loves to start her day by heading to her favorite coffee shop.
Morning, Amanda. Black coffee, no sugar.
Then, she usually takes the long way to share a little treat with Coco, Mrs. Lopez's little terrier. And when Amanda arrives to open the Keystone First Wellness and Opportunity Center, Mr. Freeman is always there.
You always on time, Amanda.
Always on time, Mr. Freeman.
Amanda has been a community health educator at Keystone First for over 15 years. She knows this community as well as the community knows her. As a local health plan, we don't only take care of members. For over 35 years, we have known them as neighbors, friends, and family. As Southeastern Pennsylvania's largest medical assistance managed care health plan, our roots run deep. Visit KeystoneFirstPA.com to learn how we can help you get care and stay well.
More than 6 million kids in the U.S. have ADHD, and many aren't getting the support they need. At understood.org, we can help. Sometimes in class, the only thing your child can focus on are the thoughts racing through their head.
Why am I always falling behind? Why do I feel so alone? So different.
Your child is looking to you for answers. But as a parent, you probably have a lot of questions too. What should I do next? Where do I even start? At understood.org, we provide parents with the resources they need to help kids with ADHD thrive. Your child wants to thrive. Be the reason they do. Visit understood.org/the reason to get started.
Tune in to EcoWord Magazine, hosted by POC, the first Friday at 10 a.m. for the PA Lottery EcoWord Fact of the Month. Brought to you by PA Lottery, benefiting older Pennsylvanians every day.
We're celebrating Black influence and Black excellence worldwide on the home of progressive Black talk media, WURD. You're listening to Love and Life with Carol Riddick on WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media.
And we are back. Welcome back, family. Welcome back to Love and Life with Carol Riddick right here on WURD. We are talking with the one and only Mr. Bob Woodson Sr. And before the commercial break, I'd asked Mr. Woodson about the statistics that he spoke about briefly about what is taking place in our prison systems with our Black and brown women. You know, before you share the statistics with us, you were talking about some of the efforts and initiatives that the Woodson Center does in other aspects. Do you also have initiatives for these women, things to help these Black and brown women in the prison system?
We don't help these women, but we have a group called Voices of Black Mothers Who Unite. We got thousands of moms who lost children to homicide, and we support. We have I think about 17 chapters around the country, and they in fact victim rights. We had activities all over promoting reduction of violence among our young people. We work with the police. They have reached across the aisle to mothers who lost children to homicide and also to suicide in what we call the Mothers Consortium. And so the center spends quite a bit of its resources staffing, organizing these women to speak for themselves and making their community safer.
I'm terribly sorry for the losses that they've suffered and the experiences that they've had, and commend you all on the work that you are doing. So I want to go back because you introduced this topic, and now it is of interest to me. The statistic that you will share, what are they?
Okay, women are abused by, I'm reading this now, staff of at least 19 of 29 federal facilities that held female inmates. The bipartisan report from the Senate Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations found that the Bureau of Prisons opened 5,415 cases alleging sexual abuse by federal employees from 2012 to 2022. Former female inmates speak out widespread sexual abuse by prison staff. So if you can get this, it's called the subcommittee, the Bureau of Prisons Subcommittee on Investigations. This was up as late as 2022.
Mm-hmm.
That's the number of cases that they have open.
So have you personally made any efforts in this regard?
Just reaching out to find, trying to, we're full of our programs. We do a lot of gang intervention. So right now our efforts are directed towards stopping the violence in inner cities. We have 25 years, since the last 25 years, we've concentrated on, and now we're expanding our efforts to reduce violence by going into the communities and studying and working with groups that have the moral authority and the social trust of other young people, and supporting and funding some of those groups that are reducing violence.
So and how are the efforts? How are you making out? How are you faring with those efforts?
It's, well, the signature one we have is 25 years ago called the Alliance of Concerned Men. If you were to Google Bennion terrorists in Washington, D.C., there was 53 gang murders in the 5 square block area in 2 years. The police were afraid to go in. We supported a group of 5 ex-offenders that had the trust of the kids. They brought the leaders into my office and negotiated a gang truce.
Oh,
and
wow.
The same young people, just 16 of them, that's all it was, that they became ambassadors of peace, went back into the same communities they were destroying and helped to rebuild it. And we went from 53 murders down to 12 to 0 for 12 years. And so the principles that we learned from that, we have exported it to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where for the past 20 years, a violence-free zone had been in schools there. We've gone to Dallas, Texas with it, and other cities as well.
So from where did you all acquire funding for, well, that program?
Individuals, individual families. We have a few thousand donors on our list. People who it's all private dollars that we have. That people hear about. We've helped 3,000 low-income grassroots organizations over the last 40 years in 39 states. And so people hear about us and they fund us, individuals, some businesses, but mostly individuals who fund us. That's where most of our funding comes from.
So what do you believe is necessary to take place in our neighborhoods? Since you stated earlier about what is taking place right in our neighborhoods, what do you believe?
We need to go back to the future. When I was born in 1937 in South Philadelphia on Garrett Street, 98% of the households had a man and a woman raising children. Elderly people could walk in those streets without fear of being assaulted by their grandchildren. Children were not shot in their cribs. I never heard a gun fired from up to the time I was 17, going to school at the time. So that deterioration had nothing to do with the fact that we were living under segregation and there were no political. It means that we went to church. Men became fathers and took care of their children. So culturally, there has been a decline in our community, and that can and the rebuilding of that community has to come from within that community. Making white people less racist does not make black people safer.
Well, I don't know that that was ever the I don't know that that in its was in
Well,
its entirety was
let me
the
put it this
focus.
way. If you were to list 7 of the most challenging issues facing our people today, particularly low-income blacks, in
Okay.
terms of not a single child in the 13 Baltimore schools are graduating reading at grade level.
Mm-hmm.
In some schools, not a single child.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't exist 50 years ago. And so we need to ask ourselves, why, in the face of all the civil rights laws that have been changed, blacks have been running these cities for the past 50 years, why has all this decline occurred when it didn't occur under segregation?
And you believe the answer to this is to have to improve our family structure, to get back to the two-parent household. And
that's one approach, but that's not possible for anyone. My dad died when I was 9, so I was raised by a single mother. I'm not saying that. But I'm
okay.
saying that we must embrace the values of self-sufficiency and stop waiting for somebody to come along and rescue us from ourselves. I mean, in other words, I guess this is what Malcolm X was talking about. And I've been a follower of Malcolm X all my life.
Okay.
Marcus Garvey, is that our destiny is in our own hands.
Mm-hmm.
And that we have to be agents of our own uplift, or the victimizer might have knocked you down, but the victim has to get up.
You know, we are living in an ever-changing world. And I mean, there are some things that you're sharing with which I agree. And there are others with which I am challenged. When we talk about making the world a safer place, we need that right now. We are living in a day and age, and this is my own personal opinion, let me say that, where we have a tyrant on the loose. We have a tyrant who has made it clear that he does not care about Black and brown individuals. I believe diversity, equity, and inclusion is important. I believe that it is necessary that we continue the efforts and the conversation, but I'm not discounting everything else that is taking place. I'm not discounting what's taking place or not taking place in our households and in our neighborhoods. I do agree with you that we do have a responsibility to that. I do. But I mean, we're talking about two worlds, two totally different worlds, like two totally different things here, that both of which need to be addressed.
Yes, but you're talking about 2 different income groups. When you had a group in Louisiana, when the fighting broke out in the high school, some fathers got together. It's called Dads on Duty. They said, you know what? It's our children down there fighting. He got together with other dads in the community, and they took over that school.
I saw that on the news. We just
That's
had
what
a
we
program
have to do.
here. Well, I'll tell you this, we are just not in large
Well,
numbers,
we
because we
need
just
to
had
make
dads
this,
get together here in
we
Philadelphia.
need to make that a movement. When you have 13-year-old girls right here in Washington, D.C. and in Philly, a 13-year-old girl is out at 3 a.m. with her 10-year-old brother, and along with 6 other juveniles, beat an old Black man to death on the streets of Philadelphia because he asked them, what are you doing out this late at night? Last week here, we just had 2 13-year-old girls beat a Black disabled man to death. I never heard of 13-year-old girls engaging in that kind of a, and it's becoming more common than not.
I agree with that.
Where's that coming from? Tell me
That I
how
don't know.
DEI can address that.
I'm not saying that it does. I'm not saying that it does. That's what I'm saying. I think I'm not saying that it does, but what I will do is go to our phone lines. I'm coming back to that, but I don't want to ignore our family member who is on the phone. Hi there. Welcome to the conversation, and thank you for calling.
Hi, and good evening to everyone in the listening audience and to your guest, Mr. Woodson, and yourself.
Good
I'm all in, Mr. Woodson, on every vow that you've stated this evening because I've experienced youth in role playing. I worked with women in their 12 months before release and incarceration, and using role playing helps people see the dynamics of communication. I believe that these videos that are being put out by these Koreans, maybe, I don't know who's creating them, are desensitizing our children and the young minds out here. And that one of the solutions may be to cease and desist these video stores. Because I found my own nephew with things that were rated X. Somebody's selling this stuff to our children. We don't buy it for them. They trade off with it. So I believe there's desensitization because of media. And one of the solutions is we have to stop this redlining that's taking place within our communities, where different people, have these attitudes or values. If they can see it modeled in front of them, that's what brings change. Giving freedom wings. What do you say to that?
I say we need an inside strategy and an outside strategy. We cannot rely solely on what other people are going to do for us. That we need to talk about, that's one, but we need to spend more time talking about what we're doing internally. I think the very fact that we keep saying, the young people keep hearing that they are victims of forces beyond their control. They live in a country that hates them. And that when you continue to bombard children with this message that they live in a country that hates them, perhaps they begin to feel that maybe it's because they're unworthy.
Unworthy?
Maybe they feel so. We need to be very careful about messages we are allowing to get to our own children. That's why I don't accept the fact that I don't let my children get away with saying the reason that I didn't study, the teacher didn't like me, or the reason I don't go to work is because the boss is rude to me. Until he changes, I'm not going to go. No, I don't accept excuses for that, and we shouldn't as a people.
I agree with you on that note. However, how many children yearn for a hug? And who's hugging them today? Who's showing them love? A lot of them get criticized. There are a lot of good children out here, and there's a few that maybe are challenged, but they're mostly good children, and we're not loving our children correctly.
Thank you. I totally agree with you. But that love has to come from us. It can't come from somebody who's taken a course in diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Correct. I agree with you. And we need to stop calling them kids. They're not goats. My friend Gilda Coker would say that on WURD. Quite often she would call the show and say, stop calling them kids. And Dr. Ijoy would say, don't spank them because it creates anger. I mean, we do all these things and they talk bad to their children and in front of other people, and it just humiliates them. So we have to raise our self-esteem so that their self-esteem will be impacted.
I totally agree.
Thank you for that. I think we're all in agreement with that.
I will work with you, Dr. Woodson, because my project that I had for prison, women in prison, I discovered that there's so many women in prison who are functionally illiterate.
Right.
And so literacy is one of the key elements. But then I realized there were so many more issues, and thank God for the private prisons that allowed me the latitude. But you really will find that a lot of our incarcerated people are coming from similar zip codes. There's something going on about that.
Yes.
So I'm having an issue right now, and I'm going to get off on this matter. We want to talk to you privately about it. But the Pennsylvania Assigned Risk Plan is attacking the only Black man that has an auto insurance agency for 42 years. And because they want to redline the community and displace anywhere from 12 to 1,500 residents from their policies. Now, 30 years ago, I went to Andrew Karn and Leanna Washington, who at that time were state reps. They straightened out things, but now they're gone, and there's a whole new crop of drivers, and they forget about the past. So please, help our people remember the struggles that Harriet Tubman did to get us to this point. We're losing sight of her story, not history, her story. And on that note, you'll be hearing from me once you give your information out.
I look forward to it.
I love that. Thank you so much for calling. Thank you. Family, it's time for another commercial break. When we come back, we're going right back to the phone line. So stay with us because we will be right back.
Summers in New Jersey were made to wow you. From sun and wows to fun and wows, chillin' wows to thrillin' wows. So come see what your wow's gonna be. New Jersey. It's one summer wow after another after another. Find your wow at visitnj.org. New Jersey. Little state, lot of wow.
Want the latest in word swag? Check out the shop tab on wordradio.com. Hoodies, tees, and more in a variety of colors. It's the shop tab on wordradio.com. You can look good and show the world that you're all about Black Talk Media.
Word Radio Digital Tip of the Month is brought to you by Comcast.
You may have recently gotten a distressing call. Someone that sounds exactly like one of your close family members has some type of emergency and needs money. Or the person on the other end of the phone claims to have kidnapped your family member and is demanding money. Either way, the call sounds legitimate and you are very concerned. Before you panic, understand that these types of calls are very likely AI generated. The goal is to get access to your bank account or credit card information in order to commit fraud. One easy thing you can do to protect yourself is to have a secret code word among your family members. If the person who called you can't tell you the word, you know they're not legit. Another thing you should do is report the phone number to the Federal Trade Commission at reportfraud.ftc.gov. You can enter the details of the scam on the website so that it can be investigated, and hopefully the scammers aren't able to harm anyone else. It takes all of us to be vigilant and pay attention when something doesn't sound right, but also to do our part to try to stop scams by reporting them. Stay tuned to WURD for more tips and stay connected with us at wordradio.com.
This week, 7 out of 10 of us had a cup of coffee. 3 out of 20 of us played Wordle, and about 1 in 100 visited an emergency room. You may not know when you'll need us, but in America's hospitals and health systems, we're ready for you today and every day. We're here to help, here for health, here for you.
WURD is happy to provide our listeners with the opportunity to participate in contests and win prizes. This is a reminder of our contest rules. All participants must be 18 years of age or older, depending on the contest. Persons may win only one prize from the radio station per contest for every 30-day period. Some contests might also specify one winner per household or company. Prizes must be claimed within 14 days or by 12 noon the day before the event, whichever is sooner, and must be accepted as is or forfeited. The radio station employees and their immediate relatives, sponsor employees and their immediate relatives, live remote sponsor employees and their immediate relatives, and any other media employees are ineligible to win the prize. Thank you for participating and for listening to WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media.
It's too black, which means it's too strong.
We're celebrating Black influence and Black excellence worldwide on the home of Progressive Black Talk Media, WURD.
Let me tell you something, and don't you ever forget it. Success is nothing without someone you love to share it with.
You're listening to Love and Life with Carol Riddick on WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media.
Welcome back, family. You are tuned in to Love and Life with Carol Riddick right here on WURD. We are talking with the one and the only, Mr. Bob Woodson. I did share before the commercial break that we are going right back to the phone lines when we come back. So here we are. Family, thank you for calling and welcome to the conversation.
John Love, Empress Carol, how are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Okay, give John glory. John Love, Elder Woodson, how are you, sir?
I'm just fine.
Give thanks, and thank you for coming on today. As always, we're thankful to the entire WRD family. We're thankful for our brother Nick on the boards, always doing an amazing job. And we truly want to give thanks for everyone working to make it better. Our hearts are with everyone suffering and going through it, of course. we're always mindful of everyone incarcerated, especially all incarcerated falsely and unjustly. Free Mumia and free us all. And again, Elder Woodson, thanks for coming on today, such a pivotal day in Philadelphia history, commemorating the bombing of the Move family and the burning down of the block and all the families that suffered as a result. 1985. Certainly. First, Elder Woodson, I wanted to thank you because I remember hearing you before on Nick Talafero one time, maybe a couple times, on Evening Words, if you remember.
Yes.
Thankfully. And I have to thank you, too, because I agree with you that I don't endorse what's considered diversity, equity, and inclusion. I look at it as dilution. I feel especially now it'd be better if we were to concentrate on ourselves and ourselves and have people qualified to inform us of who we truly are. Because every time we as Black people get together, we kick butt. And I think that's what they're afraid to tell us because they know we can do it. Now, as far as the children, I agree with you in a way. We shouldn't make them the poster children. But I believe we should inform them on why the world is targeting us and our people all over the planet. Because we live in systems that live off us and what we got and want equal, unfettered, open access to what we got, which returns to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Of course, they want us in close proximity so they can brainwash us and rob us. When has it been different?
I'm in agreement with that.
Yeah.
Elder Woodson, if I can ask you one question, please.
Yes.
Thank you. Because I appreciate your opinion. And I heard what you were saying earlier as far as some of what we need to do is return to the moral values we used to have before we became desegregated, which I agree with. We're behaving like the people we're around, but we need to return to behaving like ourselves. Or as the scriptures say, righteousness exalteth the nation. And I ain't pointing fingers because I'm just as guilty. But that don't mean someone can't get hit. The question I would ask you, sir, including that, what would you say is the easiest and simplest step someone can take to help get us and our people moving in the right direction as much as possible?
First of all, I'm glad you asked that question because I just left a conference in Las Vegas. It's a group you can Google. It's called Hope for Prisoners. And my friend who started that program was in and out of jail since he was 14. He was facing 27 years to life. And he came to Christ and started a group called Hope for Prisoners. And to date, he's had like 30,000 people come through his program. 86% of them are working, raising families. We just had an annual conference where we had 10 men who spent collectively 250 years in prison, but they got out, came to themselves, and now all of them are running businesses and they employ about 200 people. So what we can do is highlight not those who just failed, but those who decided that they are going to rise up and be agents of their own uplift. And when people take those kind of steps, we need to support their businesses. And we need to celebrate our success. We need to inspire by our own witness. A witness is more powerful than an advocate. And if you want to show people what kind of values they need to emulate, then you must demonstrate them in your own self. My wife and I have taken in 5 of these young men. We've embraced them, ex-gang members. A couple of them lived in our house for a time because we have to witness to them what a family looks like. So they've seen my wife and I and my children sit around the dinner table. And for many kids have never sat around the table from someone like that. So we have to demonstrate in our life what we want other people to do.
To our caller, I thank you so much for your contribution. To Mr. Woodson, I can't thank you enough. I really appreciate every single time you come to visit. I appreciate the conversations we have, and I'm looking forward to the next one. I'm looking forward to your return visit. I truly am. I truly am. I am always enlightened when you come. So I don't think I've ever said that to you before, but I'm saying that to you now because I need you to know that, and I want you to know that. And I just want you to know that you are appreciated. You are
Well, I
truly
appreciate you, and I'm glad that there's a forum where we could express our differences, without being disagreeable. And I appreciate you having that kind of forum where people can have honest dialogue. God bless you for what you do.
Oh, God bless you. I think it's necessary. I'm trying to do my part, Mr. Woodson. I'm trying
You're doing it. Keep on doing it.
Keep on doing it. As long as you keep coming back. If
Keep
you will
on
keep
doing
coming back, you'll keep coming back. Will you visit
As
with
long
us
as you're
again?
there, I'll be there.
Oh, God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. I do have, I think, one more caller.
Okay.
We'll try to squeeze one in. Thank you so much for calling.
With all due respect to my brother, Nick Rose had many, many inventions. Nick Rose had towns that were burned to the ground, and many Nick Rose were lynched and assassinated. Nick Rose had all kind of inventions that was taken or manipulated for them. George Washington Carver came up with 300 products from the peanut. Nick Rose controlled none of that. Percy Julian came up with blood plasma. Nick Rose benefited very little from that. The point is, we have done everything that a people can do. We had towns burned to the ground. We have did those things, and I appreciate you for saying it. We have done that. But this, brother, is not our land. It will never be our land, and we are a eye flash from being exterminated.
So if I'm a young man sitting trying to figure out what I should do with my life, tell me how I can use what you just said.
If you got any money.
No, I'm just asking you, tell me how, if a young man is struggling about what I should do with my life, and he heard you, what would you expect him to do after he's heard you?
If he can get some money, try to get out of this country before the final assault come down on us, which is going to be mass extermination, like what happened to the Jews in Nazi Germany.
Oh, so you're telling him the answer is to leave the country, right?
Yes.
Okay. I got you. I got you. Okay.
Brother
a lot of
X.
people can't even leave Philly, and you talking about leave the country? Come on, man. Be for real.
Brother X, I thank you for your contribution to the conversation as well. I do. Family, it is that time. It is that time. I'm going to ask that you continue to pray as we all need it. Pray for your loved ones. Pray for your enemies. Pray for all of those in need. I just thank you to all of our guests for sharing your time, your energy, your attention, your knowledge, your spirit, and your space. And family, I thank you as well for doing the same. Special thanks to the entire Word family. Happy birthday once again to all of our love lights. Family, remember, we are all in this together. So please be good to you, but be good to those around you. Be careful and be kind. God loves you, and so do I. Have a great rest of your night, and be sure to join me Monday through Thursday, 7 till 9 p.m. Eastern Time for another edition of Love and Life right here on WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media. Have a good night, Mr. Woodson. Have a good night, family.